You're watching Let's Chat.
Race fans, take note of our next guest. This is a name that you've heard in the past, you'll be hearing a lot of in the future, and it is the son of one of the NASCAR competitors, one of the NASCAR bigwigs, Joe Nemechek. This is John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter, good to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell me about your interest in NASCAR. Obviously, it's hereditary, right?
It definitely is. Growing up at the racetrack, I was 2 weeks old the first time that I went to a race with
2
my
weeks?
mom and dad. Yes. I don't remember it, but I've grown up around it. Racing is in my blood.
Right.
So it's kind of my passion and my desire and what I love to do each and every weekend.
How long have you been driving?
I got my first go-kart when I was 3 years old. I'm 22 now, so
Wow.
being able to be driving since I was 3 is pretty amazing and remarkable. But been some ups and downs through the years. Been some crashes and some wins, but it's been a fun journey.
We're going to talk about that here in a moment, but I want you to tell me, what's it like when you get behind the wheel, you hear the words, "Gentlemen, start your engines." What goes through your mind?
Fired up. At that time, you're so focused in on what you need to do. Come race time, you're listening to your spotter, getting all of your radio communication checks, and checking your wheel, pulling your belts tight, and getting ready to go racing.
You kind of step into another persona when that happens?
Yeah, I would say definitely you step into a different persona. You're all smiles in front of the camera, and when you put your helmet on, it's go time. That's your time to focus and be ready to do what you do.
We have a couple of pieces of video that I want to share. The first piece is your first win. No, I'm sorry. This is what happened last week in New Hampshire. You had a brake failure.
I did.
What happened?
Drove down into turn 1 and at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. You use quite a bit of brake getting in the corners, so it was a wild ride. That's the second time that I've ever had brakes fail on me. We had a parts failure in our right rear caliper and hit the brake pedal, it went to the floor, and at that point you're just along for the ride trying not to hit stuff too hard. That was probably one of the hardest hits I've taken.
You're going into damage control at that point.
Exactly. You're trying not to have too much damage, and sadly we had too much damage to continue at the end of that day, which definitely stinks for our team. We lost a few points and
But you weren't
spots,
hurt.
but
That's the important thing.
I wasn't hurt. Just a little bit sore.
Now let's take a look at some of your earlier wins. I think we have video of the first win that you that you were behind the wheel on. Tell me about this one.
Yes, so this was a really special day. My dad's first NASCAR Cup Series win came in 1999 on this exact day. So 16 years later, we ended up winning my first NASCAR King World Truck Series race, or my first NASCAR national race. Ran out of gas coming across the line. That's how close that was. This being at Atlanta, this was my second ever win the following year. I've had some great success in the NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series, which has been a lot of fun.
And you're going to be hitting the Bristol Motor Speedway coming up here in a couple of weeks. That's kind of a different animal because it's a half-mile track. How are you different behind a track like Bristol as opposed to one like you were in Atlanta?
Your technique changes. Bristol, last great Coliseum, a lot of banking, fast speeds, one of the fastest short tracks that we go to. You can drive in the corner hard, you can run the bottom, the top, the middle, you can pretty much run wherever. Tempers flare, sparks fly, there's a lot of beating and banging underneath the lights. So you do whatever it takes to win at Bristol.
And of course, it takes an entire team to do what you do. Tell me about your team. You're like an extended family, right?
Yes, exactly. We're all really close to each other. My crew chief, all the guys that work on the car. I'm in the shop quite a bit with our guys and able to communicate with them and have a lot of fun. And we play games on each other, but we're one big family. Our GMS racing team has definitely shown speed this year. So.
And of course, the Food City 300, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks, it's one of the final races of the Xfinity Series. Does that put a different kind of pressure on you?
Yes and no. If we're in a different situation than we were in points right now, we're pretty much locked into the playoffs and starting the playoffs. So these next few races, we're going to take some gambles and see if we can go get some trophies and some playoff points ready for that playoff season to start. But you never know what can happen at the end of the regular season.
Take yourself out from behind the wheel and put yourself in the stands as a huge fan. I mean, tell me what that is like. Why is the fan appeal, especially at Bristol, so high?
It's so amazing. The last great Coliseum, there's stands everywhere. The vibe from the drivers, from watching the cars underneath the lights with amazing sponsors and paint schemes and sparks flying and everyone running into each other and creating really great entertainment. It's a great time. It's a blast. Families are very welcome. Kids, I think 12 and under get in free. So
absolutely, they do.
It's a great time to have your whole family out and enjoy a night of racing at Bristol.
I know there have been several times where the city of Bristol turned into the biggest city in Tennessee because of the race up there, and we certainly wish you a lot of luck. John Hunter, Nemechek, we're going to be hearing a lot about you in the future. Just remember you were here, and you always have an open door to come back.
Thank you.
Find out more about what's happening at the Food City 300 at the Bristol Motor Speedway. It's Under the Lights, 7:30, Friday, August 16th. Check them out, bristolmotorspeedway.com. Again, bristolmotorspeedway.com.